Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's Tate McRae and Wicked for Good, and it's Billboard BREAKDOwn. I don't remember. There's a part of me tempted to say that it was a post-album bomb week as usual, but more like two smaller impacts getting replaced even as the glut of Christmas music is welling up now that we are actually in December. Now this would be where I would complain about recurrency rules yet again with regards to holiday music. One of the great lies of capitalism is that it encourages innovation rather than the race to the bottom in order to cut costs, especially when the system rigs itself to artificially prop up material that could do just fine on its own, so advantage compounds. But given how bad the music industry has fumbled 2025, I'm about at the point where we consider this a year a write-off, try again in 2026. I don't have the highest expectations it'll be better, but we'll see. Case in point, our top 10, where The Fate of Ophelia by Taylor Swift is still holding the number one. And listen, even Swifties got to admit this is far from her best to be so dominant in the Hot 100 in all channels, especially when it's clearly peaked on the radio for holiday music to rapidly take its place. And if anything, the problem is more pronounced from Golden for K-pop Demon Hunters at number 2, which had a little bit more radio momentum than A Fate of Ophelia, only for it to stall out at the end of this week. And it's not exactly seeing any improvements in streaming or sales in order to make up the gap. Then there's Ordinary by Alex Warren. It's still at number 3, which is bleeding really hard on the radio, but streaming just is not dumping it fast enough, so it's holding there, very much in the way of The Man I Need by Olivia Dean, making a valiant push at number 4 with better streaming, but the radio margin she's got to close is so wide, I don't think it's going to have a great chance before the holiday music just swamps her out. Case in point, let's just run through some of the 4 Christmas songs that have all surged up into the top 10 in a line where you might as well just tack it all up to their order on streaming. All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey at number 5, Last Christmas by Wham at number 6, Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree by Brenda Lee at number 7, and Jingle Bell Rock by Bobby Helms at number 8. Yeah, I know, it doesn't make for interesting chart analysis during the holidays exploring this kind of position. I gotta work with the material I get, folks. I wish there was more that I could say here. Anyway, Mutt by Leon Thomas is holding at number 9. It got the top spot on radio basically because it's not losing as fast as everything else. And Opalite by Taylor Swift slipped down to number 10 because it took a step back on streaming and the radio growth is nowhere near fast enough. I would not expect it to be in the top 10 next week if I'm being brutally honest. It's kind of really underperformed. Speaking of which, our losers and our dropouts, where basically none of the album impact from Summer Walker or NF really lasted here, which is effectively the story of album bombs in 2025 outside of the very biggest in pop. And even then, we had multiple overdue exits for Taylor Swift here, with Cancelled, Eldest Daughter, Actually Romantic, and Would. They are all gone. Can't really complain. Along with What It Sounds Like from K-pop Demon Hunters, What I Want by Morgan Wallen featuring Tate McRae. Don't worry, we'll get back to her a lot in a little bit. And Love Me Not by Raven Lenae, who actually had the sleeper run of the year with a pretty good song. Pretty rare for 2025. And because we are in holiday territory, we did get a lot of losers, and where I'll freely admit if there is one advantage to the holiday season and all these songs coming back, it's getting rid of a lot of old songs and getting them to finally exit, presuming Billboard actually enforces those recurrency rules. So let's start off with the more residual album bomb cuts from Taylor Swift. Elizabeth Taylor at 53, Father Figure at 69, Wish List at 71, The Life of a Showgirl with Sabrina Carpenter at 80, and Ruin the Friendship at 98. And while we're here with Sabrina Carpenter, Man Child fell down to 30 and Tears at 33. Then we had the continued losses for K-pop Demon Hunters with Soda Pop at 35, Your Idol at 40, and How It's Done at 52. And continuing with K-pop, Gabriella from Cat's Eye hit 41. I've seen some discourse that this is one of the worst years for K-pop in recent memory, especially the stuff that crossed over. I'm not sure I've got the full expertise in order to debate this, but if your cultural ascendancy is coming from a Netflix cartoon instead of new acts, might be a warning sign. Then off the debut last week, Fear by NF's get it back to 77, and losing all the gains, we got Time by Cardi B at 79, and a couple minutes by Olivia Dean, unfortunately back at 65. Kinda predicted holiday music would make it an uphill battle, at least for them. Then for a few continued losers, we got that cover of Travelin' Soldier by Cody Johnson and his band mercifully falling hard to 62, Dracula by Tame Impala at 67, and Jealous Type by Doja Cat hitting 83, and the rest are all over the damn place. I'm not gonna complain that It Depends by Chris Brown featuring Bryson Tiller hit 28, or No Broke Girls by Disco Lines and Tinashe hit 54, or that execrable Darlin' by Chase Matthew hit 75, but do we have to lose 6 months later by Megan Maroney at 48? That song's at least passable, I wouldn't mind it sticking around. But okay, what's replacing it? Come on, you already know the answer, and it is Outside of 321 by Tucker Wetmore at 87, and What You Is by Youngboy Never Broke Again featuring Mellow Rax at 99. Just holiday music, back in spades in all of our returns, yet again. Jingle Bells by Frank Sinatra at 31. White Christmas by Bing Crosby at 34. It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas by Perry Como this time at 38. Run Rudolph Run by Chuck Berry at 39. Here Comes Santa Claus by Gene Autry at 42. Deck the Halls by Nat King Cole at 45. Santa Baby by Eartha Kitt at 49. And Blue Christmas by Elvis Presley at 50. And when you look at our gains, it's just as flagrant there. It's The Most Wonderful Time of the Year by Andy Williams at 17. The Christmas Song by Nat King Cole at 18. Sleigh Ride and Christmas Baby Please Come Home by Darlene Love and the Ronettes at 20 and 25 respectively. It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas by Michael Bublé this time at 21. Let It Snow by Dean Martin at 22. Feliz Navidad by Jose Feliciano at 23. And A Holly Jolly Christmas by Burl Ives at 24. Now, there are a few non-holiday songs also seeing gains, and man, I really wish any of them were all that good. Yes, Amen by Shabuzi and Jelly Roll at 85, a testament to Billboard not enforcing their recurrency rules because of pitiful radio pickups and adult alternative. But is it worth Where Is My Husband by Ray at 37, What Kind of Man by Parker McCollum at 66, and Favorite Country Song by Hardy at 86? Really? And what's more exasperating is that neither of the album impact that we're seeing from both Tate McRae's Deluxe or from Wicked for Good on the soundtrack were big enough to hit album bomb territory, so brace yourself for a slightly longer episode here. Number 100, The Girl in the Bubble by Ariana Grande.
A bright shiny bubble, blissfully floating above.
Okay, one thing that the rest of this episode will reveal is that I tend to be a bigger defender of the second act of Wicked than most. Mostly tied to the music, not that disaster class of a plot, and songs like this are where I dread the most about any sort of musical adaptation for the big screen, because they aren't here for anything beyond, oh god, we didn't push hard enough for the Oscars last year, here's the original song to again get curb stomped by Golden, please, oh please, my producer needs another yacht, and to distract from all the insane social media discourse and drama around this production and all the press tour. Now, if you saw my review of the movie, it's on the main channel, please go subscribe over there, year-end lists are coming after all. You know that I think both the songs they added are the worst things they could be for a musical full of hooks and earworms. They're unmemorable, especially when it's a ballad all about the insulated life that Glinda has had playing as a tool of the authoritarian state in the clunkiest way possible. And while I think there are some really good camera tricks in the sequence and the strings, piano, and chimes arrangement, they're pretty enough, and Ariana Grande is a good singer, the song's painfully clunky. A lot of this is tied to the scenes in the narrative around that damn bubble, including a flashback scene early on to Galinda as a child, and I guess it could make sense for how otherwise coddled she is for the language to feel so childish. But not only does it miss that Oz weirdness in a lot of its phrasing, it's another example of how writing about the struggles of privilege awkwardly centers more of her story, and it feels myopic to any stronger themes within Wicked. We don't need more tears for Galinda, especially as the reprise of I'm Not That Girl is effective enough in its brevity, and it's filmed well to accentuate it. So yeah, Utterly inessential, and it will be nobody's favorite song from this musical. Let's move on. Number 91, As Long As You're Mine by Cynthia Erivo and Jonathan Bailey.
I'll make every last moment last as long as you're mine.
And funnily enough, neither will this. I mentioned in my review how the paratext of the central relationship in Wicked has changed over the course of 20 years. So seeing the movie in theaters with a bunch of snorting, derisive teenagers behind me at this scene was very entertaining. It's a rare case where the queer reading of the central relationship has so completely taken over the discourse that nobody really believes Alphaba and Fiyero were ever endgame, which, look, I can't tell you how much that's a cultural change over the course of 20 years. It's truly incredible. I think that's worth noting. And yet it's kind of a shame because Cynthia Erivo and Jonathan Bailey have solid chemistry and the song has always been really good. I actually like the slow pulse of the bass that they added that complements the shudder of the strings really well. It really accentuates the quiet storm elements as they deepen the strings as that lead into Bailey's singing, giving the song a little bit more of an extended R&B timbre that they both utterly nail. Now, if I'm gonna nitpick, I think Cynthia Erivo doesn't quite nail the title drop here in the final outro. We'll get into more of this in the larger issue with No Good Deed in a bit. But again, I'm nitpicking a genuinely terrific ballad that goes about as right as it can for a ship that's long sailed, but I think it's deserving a second glance. Great song. Number 84, Horseshoe by Tate McRae. Look, I don't so much dislike Tate McRae that much, but when she has more of an album impact than Wicked for Good on the charts this week from a deluxe release, well, it feels painfully apt to call 2025 her year, for better and for worse. So we got 4 tracks from her that charted, on average higher than that from Wicked, and this, well, it's not surprising that she's trying to rewrite Britney Spears' Lucky with the very obvious allusion on the hook and given her career trajectory, and I think amidst the smoky atmospherics of the song with the heavy overdubs, at least the first verse gets somewhat close to capturing a bit of that sentiment, if none of the magnetism. The dreary tune and the let-in groove blunt it from going any further. And adding to that problem is the second verse, where she flits over relationship trauma, and okay, sure, probably a major factor given the split from Kid Laroi between So Close to What and this deluxe, but she's asking for a lot of investment in a relationship that's never felt all that compelling, at least to me. So yeah, I guess this is not bad, but I'm not sure why I'd go back to it. That's all I'm saying. Number 82, Cold by BigXThaPlug and Post Malone.
My heart's made for running away. I don't know what else I can say, but I'm so cold, like a long neck burning through a paycheck, baby. I'm cold, so cold.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised that BigXThaPlug is now pushing this. Outside the Jelly Roll collab, it's the most immediately obvious of the country crossover songs, but I'm a little bit surprised he reserved it for the deluxe edition of I Hope You're Happy, even if I think that Home with Shabuzi never got the proper push it deserved. And for this, even as the guy who has defended this album pretty much more than anyone else online, I would say it's credibly solid to other points of view. The transitions between the live percussion and drum machines are smoother, the smoky guitar groove has more muscle, and Post Malone fits this genre fusion. He can handle the sort of warbling hook in his sleep, especially for a song where the breakup off of Miscommunications is inevitable, but BigXThaPlug wants to grow as a man, potentially see a reunion. In short, I actually do think it's pretty good. If shipped to radio at the right time, it will work, and you know what, I wouldn't mind it that much. I'll take it. Number 68, Duet by Stray Kids. At this point, my run with Stray Kids has been a lot of frustration and disappointment, where the pileup of flexing and production swerves generates more headaches than actual success. And wow, that certainly didn't change with this song, a stuttering, overmixed rattle with what sounds like steel drums and a reggaeton groove, and a melody line grafted on from DJ Snake that sounds like a dying puppy on the hook, with all the clinking trap percussion around it, where there might be more texture in the percussion and blaring horns on the hook, because why not keep trying to bring back 2015? But as I've said before, a lot of sizzle, no actual steak, and it's made all the worse by how goddamn pushy this song is. Once you translate the lyrics and contextualize it as more around a dance floor hookup, judging by the pre-chorus, lines like "another name for the failure process," "flawless," "I hack it with guts and rep," "if you're gonna do it anyway, just quit the whining, shut it," and the repeated "Duet" stuttering throughout the hook, it's got this ugly sheen of the grind set with a lot of sneering presumptuousness, the sort of ego that's just not attractive whatsoever, especially when it feels this painfully dated. So yeah, this really sucks. Next, number 59, Trying On Shoes by Tate McRae. The first of the deluxe list of songs, if you're not counting Tit for Tat, which has been charting since it dropped when I was on my honeymoon. When I actually have to talk about it, I might add more. And okay, you know what? I wasn't against the touches of smoky opulence in the strings around all the clipped mechanical percussion, but man, the last thing I need is Tate McRae and her breathy baby voice trying to do the most unconvincing Lana Del Rey imitation I have heard in a while. And it's made all the more awkward when you realize that all of this is trying to be this imperious bad bitch flex, where she's trying to look so impossibly hot that she blows the mind of said ex, Kid Laroi. And you know what? Sure, she can probably do that. I doubt he's ever going to do better than her, but it's not exactly impressive to anyone else when the main lines anchoring all of that hook are "trying on shoes, putting on glitter, anything to make me a little less bitter." With that vocal delivery, it doesn't get away from showing a shocking amount of heartbroken weakness. I just don't find it credible, and that leaves the song feeling really underwhelming. And you know, while we're on the topic of some issues in performance, number 56, No Good Deed by Cynthia Erivo.
No act of charity goes unresented. No good deed goes unpunished. That's my creed.
Okay, so the problem with being a fan of the Broadway recording with Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth is that you get familiar with certain vocal affectations in the performance. And when I talked about I'm Not That Girl just last year, I highlighted just how Cynthia Erivo really surpassed the original recording. Unfortunately, Ariana Grande came up a little bit short, capturing some of that manic energy at Popular. But No Good Deed is a different animal altogether, and it highlights less a problem with Erivo's performance as it is the direction. Wicked for Good really does not handle the moral ambiguity of Alphaba at all. She's the designated hero, and while that's a cleaner message out of the narrative, it makes the contrast from the source material, both Wizard of Oz and the original novels, feel all the more stark. The large problem with the movie is that it misses a huge opportunity for a more complex or challenging narrative, but on a smaller scale, it doesn't let Cynthia Erivo cut loose with as much significant venom or rage or, well, wickedness as she could. There's a sharpness in Menzel's delivery that gives her that extra texture. I think it's a poor choice more in the actor's direction rather than Cynthia Erivo's range, and when you augment the arrangement with hints of electric guitar and a firmer bass line, you could use that fury, and Erivo sells more anguish and panic. And yeah, you need that too, don't get me wrong, but her delivery feels more modern Disney to drop into cleaner belting and vocal runs. It's missing some of that edge. It feels like the difference between, let's say, Carrie Underwood and Miranda Lambert, if you want something in country, which is all the more funny because Carrie Underwood wrote the song that features tornadoes and was also obviously cribbing from Wicked's theatricality back in the early 2010s. Now again, this is still a killer song. I know I'm nitpicking here, but like with Defying Gravity, I've got high standards. I can hear where it doesn't quite work as well as it should. That's all. Number 44, Anything But Love by Tate McRae. appears like the arc of this deluxe is Tate McRae just flexing on Kid Laroi in increasingly glossy and dismissive ways, this time grabbing up a leftover from the Think Later sessions, complete with painfully canned-sounding trap percussion that's really dated, and stuffing it full of strings as she tries to flex on him. And look, maybe it's an age thing. She's 22, I'm 35. Maybe it's way more impactful to the potential dudes in that demographic, but Tate McRae's breathy cooing does not sound effortless enough to back up a song where she's trying to run through the list of people who hate Kid Laroi while she stacks up brands and mocks him for still masturbating to her. Mariah Carey, maybe Ariana Grande have the chops to do this, but Tate McRae really struggles to make it feel all that potent. Hell, the most cutting line is the pause and dismissive sneer of "the shit your punk ass does for views." To Gen Z, that hits. But it's also kind of undercut by saying you saw him at the hair salon, or trying to brag that he's not in the upper echelon. I mean, Kid Laroi certainly is not there, but I don't think Tate McRae is either. So yeah, it's passable, but I can't really say I endorse it. Unlike number 43, For Good by Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande.
But because I knew you, I have been changed for good.
Look, there was one song that had to land for Wicked For Good to work on any level, where even if you've got issues with the script and screen economy, and oh boy I do, this was going to be the make or break moment, and well yeah, they made it work. I love the slight touches of the musical's other arrangements that they interweave across the longer instrumental runtime, along with giving the guitar a little bit more strings in the backing. The production feels note perfect, the exact right amplification from that musical recording, and there is a deeper tenderness that Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo add to their chemistry that obviously matches a lot of the paratext of the film, where I have seen folks highlight just how impossibly in sync their harmonies are. And I've seen so much discourse about how weird their relationship might seem online in the press kits, that it's all so close and codependent. Look, it's none of my or your business if it all feels like too much. And if that connection led to this sounding as gorgeous as it is, so long as nobody got hurt, they made tangible magic. It's the best song in the movie. They at least stuck the landing. They kind of had to. It's worth all the price of admission. It's more than just for good. It's special. And finally, number 29, Nobody's Girl by Tate McRae.
It's exactly what I wanted. Oh, I am nobody's girl. Doesn't mess you up, but you had it and you lost it.
And ending this off, we're getting what Tate McRae passes as an empowerment anthem post-breakup. I had Since You've Been Gone, 2025 has this, I guess. Okay, that's harsh. The integration of the strings and heavier percussion gives the song a little bit more dramatic swell alongside the ooh, uh-oh, but we're stuck going to Tate McRae's content and delivery, and look, the over-processed cooing is one thing, seems to be trying for a bit of an Addison Rae vibe, but she's also trying to showcase New York City opulence as she describes her heart like an open sore that needed like 20 healers. Apparently all the clerics in the party were underleveled, even as she shapeshifts in her art to be whatever she needs to be, with a hint of real tragedy that she's done it so while not really finding an identity of her own. And if she was willing to fully explore that undercurrent of sadness rather than just play the stark recovery cliches, I might respect this a little more, find it more interesting, but no, there's just not enough to fully click here, even if it might be one of the stronger hooks overall in this deluxe. Not terrible, just not exactly good either. And yeah, that's our week, and I will say this, at least the best fall out pretty fast, with For Good taking the top spot, and As Long As You're Mine snagging honorable mention. Y'all can fight me on that. When you're not up against Kendrick Lamar's released week, look, what do you know, Wicked can do really damn well, and hell, that song is really good. And as for the worst, yeah, Duet by Stray Kids is nabbing that, but I don't think there's an obvious dishonorable mention here. I think I'll just take Trying On Shoes by Tate McRae, just because the hook doesn't remotely have the gravitas that it clearly thinks it does. That's the big misstep. Next week, I think we're on the other side of major releases, so it might be really quiet as the holidays get closer. I guess stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.